In Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty, I first set my eyes on sweet Molly Malone. As she wheeled her wheelbarrow through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive-o. That is the opening lyrics. Those are the opening lyrics to a song called Cockles and Mussels that was done by the Dubliners this time. But if you look back through history, it was probably done myriad times by just about everybody who took seriously the art of music, because it's been around for a couple hundred years. And in a moment, I'll get into why I chose these lyrics and what I was thinking about and so forth. This is Joey Thurman, and this is Sean Matthews Podcast. And with me today, of course, my captain, Sean. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. It sounds cool. You opening the show with some of because these lyrics mean a lot to you, like you told me. I got a couple stories I want to get to a little bit, but I want you to really just talk about why this song means a lot to you, man.
Well, Sean, last week, some of the things we were talking about, I think we were talking about Chosen on TV, the series. And I just thinking a lot lately about my father. And I was thinking, I guess because, mom passed in 2007, and dad passed in 2015. And of course, as you know, I took care of Pop for like 4.5 years. He had Alzheimer's and all this kind of stuff. We've been through this before. But I just found myself a little guilty. I hadn't been thinking about mom. It wasn't that I love my mother unbelievably, but I think just because mom passed first and then I had dad, and then I had to take care of him after that. I think you have to love one, you don't admit to either one, but you love one like a slightly more, or you have more of a connection with one of them than the other. So I guess I had more of a connection with dad than I did mom. That being said, I started to think about mom, and I went online because one of her favorite songs was this song called Cockles and Mussels. Cockles, it's this Celtic now, okay? But, in Dublin's fair city. So this is an Irish. As a matter of fact, this song is so famous that it's the unofficial anthem of Dublin, okay? Yeah, it's been around for a couple hundred years.
Yeah, they made it around like 1876. I saw it. It's Dublin's unofficial anthem. Because I didn't know anything about it until you told me. I had to look it up, and I'm like, who sings this song? Then I found out there's a lot of different artists that really have been singing this song for hundreds of years.
Yes, and even before that that date you mentioned, they can trace some of the folklore back to the early 1800s about Molly Malone and so forth. My mother used to listen to this kind of music because her father was the Celtic, okay, in the, my mom was half German, half Irish or Celtic or whatever you want to call it. So, her father was Celtic, and her father listened to this and if you think about it, it's been around for a couple hundred years. His grandfather probably listened to it, and so probably over in the old country. I used to think that it was really an esoteric song, that only a few people, only a small group of people knew this one. Cockles and mussels, what are you talking about? And the cockles, of course, is clams. It's the Celtic word for like clams. And mussels is mussels, okay? And if you think back a couple hundred years, someone wheeling a barrow through the streets of Dublin yelling cockles and mussels is clams and mussels alive. They're live. And they still today, I don't eat seafood, but I understand a lot of people buy clams and mollusks and so forth. They buy them live because they want to make sure they're fresh. So that's where that terminology comes in. But I digress. I was thinking about mom, and I was thinking about this time of year. And one thing she always did every Christmas season, anytime during the year really, but especially it's ingrained in my head at Christmas season. He used to have those big records. I don't know if they were 72 or I don't know they weren't 45. 45s were the small records. They were the bigger. These were the bigger ones, the whole albums, the vinyl. She used to play those, and there were scratches on them. There were bumps and skips and everything. And she played it on this big hi-fi, she called it. This is back in the day now, in the 50s and 60s and into the 70s. She had this old hi-fi, she called it, with the needle to the record, right? But I can remember my dad coming home one time. I was about 10, and mom's just shaking the windows with this Christmas music. And my dad comes in and says something about, Mr. Morella down the street wants you to turn the music down a little bit. He was joking, but that's how loud she used to play it. when I hear this song, it reminds me of it's a sad song in so many ways because it talks about this this lady Molly Malone and the life she had. I mean, they would wake up before dawn, go out to the ocean, these fishmongers, right? And they would dig for clams and mollusks and everything like that for 4 or 5 hours till 10 or so in the morning or 9 in the morning, whenever it was, and then they went to work. You know what I mean? They woke up early, went to dig for shellfish, got a whole barrel full of them or a whole wheelbarrow full, and now they're off to work, walking the streets and just yelling out and selling their product. And what a tough life it must have been. But it's a sad song about Molly Malone, but it also it reminds me of being a kid. It reminds me of mom. Nothing reminds me more of mom than this song. And sure as heck, later we're going to, I think we can get a link for folks for this.
But yeah, I was just going to comment, interject really quickly. This song is done by a lot of different artists. And if you search on YouTube, just to be very clear, it's Molly Malone, Malone with an M-A-L-O-N-E. It's the spelling of her last name. Molly Malone or Cockles and Muscles, but Molly Malone would probably be easier to search for. I'm looking into putting YouTube links because there's copyright issues. We can't actually play the songs on here, but we can possibly put YouTube links in the description of the podcast. Now, I know a lot of people are technologically savvy and they can simply go on YouTube and search for it themselves. We realize that we got a lot of smart listeners out there and people are really hip. But we're going to look into possibly putting a link because I don't know what the logistics are because YouTube's owned by Google. And we're doing this podcast where it's a general podcast that goes on all different platforms, not just Spotify, not just Apple. The idea of just putting a YouTube link, because once you click the link, they're still getting paid. Whoever has that song uploaded, they're getting paid by the ads or whatever, and we're not getting anything for putting that link up, right? So I don't want it to be a thing where we put the link up and then they tell us to take the episode off or remove the link from the description. We have to re-upload it. So I have to look into the logistics, but. For now, it's easy to find right on YouTube, just Molly Malone, Irish Dublin song, that type of thing. And Joe, I'm glad you chose this because it's different from what we talked about. You've been going a little bit different lately. I like that. You've been doing the blues of Buddy Guy. You got this tonight, the Molly Malone. So I like that there's a little bit diversity for sure.
Yeah, being eclectic and being diverse, especially with music. If I preach this to kids and even adults now that I work with, it sometimes can get a little narrow-minded about say, no, you got to expand. This is music is a whole lot different, and one day on here, not next week or anything, one day on here, I'm going to do something that's probably about, 500 years old. But it's a beautiful piece of music. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. And then probably the next week I'll do some Ozzy Osbourne or something. I don't know. But that whole range, that whole being eclectic is something I preach. So I'm going to, if I talk the talk, I'm going to walk the walk. But just real quickly.
I like how you said, I like how you said you stick to your home base mainly, but then sometimes you venture off the home base, especially with when it comes to music and stuff like that. You venture a little bit and you see what's out there musically and artistically. And sometimes you discover some beautiful things if you go out of your own lane for a second.
Right. And not only that, sometimes people say, oh, that stuff will put me to sleep. Sometimes you want to be put to, not necessarily to sleep, but sometimes you want something that's down low and relaxing and chilling. It's like, do you listen? I want to ask that person sometimes, do you listen to club music? When you want to lay down and relax? I mean, is your mind that way all the time? And if I'm going to go exercise or pump iron or do something like that, it's heavy metal or some fast pump, like club music like that or whatever. But if I'm driving in my car down a country road and I got maybe a 6-hour drive in front of me, I don't necessarily want that. I might want some easy 70s music or something like that. So it depends. Music is a mood intensifier, so it depends on what kind of mood you're in, is my point. But real quickly, I'm going to touch one more thing on Molly Malone here, on Cockles and Muscles, Molly Malone. Same thing. People call that song, it has 2 titles. Okay. But it starts out talking about her. In Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty, I first set my eyes on sweet Molly Malone as she wheeled her wheelbarrow through streets broad and narrow. And this was her cry, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive. Oh, it's clams and mussels, alive, live clams and mussels. Okay. It goes on to talk about, she was a fishmonger. So were her parents, and that's why she was. and then it goes on. It tells the sad story of her life, and it says she died of a fever and nothing could save her, and that was the end of Sweet Molly Malone. And at the very last segment, it says, now her ghost wheels a barrel through streets broad and narrow. So it even finishes up that way, that it not only finishes with her, and in some good versions, some different versions, that they'll have that the ghost calling out a little bit, not in a real ghoulish way, but just in a real chill way, a real peaceful way. So it's a story. It's a Celtic story, but it could be any nationality. And I think it's a tribute to the women throughout history who have broken their backs working and never gotten credit for it or acknowledged for it. So I think it's a women's song. I think it's a Celtic song. I think it's a song for everybody, really, when you get down to it. And especially for me, it reminds me of Julia. That was my mom's name was Julia. And I can't get, normally I read this, but if no one's around and I put that song on, especially the version that we're linking to, I found that, and I found a couple of them, but I saw that one and I got, there were 4 lines in and I was already, a half a mess. So emotionally. So, it's a good version, the Dubliners. But bear in mind, they didn't create that song. I don't know that anybody has really had the right to lay claim to it, but that's another interesting thing about it. But it's been around for over a couple hundred years, a great tune, and we are diverse musically. I talk it, so I wanted to walk it, and there it is. Hopefully we get that link. If we don't get the link up for some reason, guys, it is just the Dubliners, Molly Malone on YouTube. The Dubliners, Dublin ERS, Molly Malone on YouTube.
Absolutely. You mentioned, do people listen to club music when they're laying down? You got me cracking up here because, imagine them laying down. All they listen to is club music. Is there peaceful club music? Because back in the day, the joke was there's a song called Sandstorm by Darude. I believe it's Darude. And everyone knew the beat by heart, but they could do it with their mouth. I don't know if it's going to come through on the mic, but you go like, and you do that, and that's the club music. But I can't imagine having that beat playing in my mind all the time. It would drive me crazy. But
and that's just it. And I wouldn't want Sinatra singing New York, or singing, something really slow, because I love Sinatra. If I'm out having a couple of belts, I'd love to hear some Frank or whatever, or even Billy Joel with some slow stuff. If I'm running or doing some exercise, I'd rather hear something different. And it depends on what time of day it is, depends on what kind of mood it is. But dude, there's slow music, there's fast music, Absolutely. There's music in between, there's everything. Yep. Open it up.
And I actually have I have a ton of playlists on Spotify, and a couple of them are called Mood, MOOD, Mood Changers. These songs are specific songs that can literally alter my mood immediately, almost, because they're so emotional and they're so good, and they're all pretty much eclectic and different. But when I find a song that really changes my mood, I'm like, oh, my mood just changed. I'll throw it on the Mood Changers playlist or something like that. Then I have I have a playlist just for adrenaline from working out called Adrenaline Currents. Mm-hmm. So music can be a very powerful sort of drug, but it's a healthy drug.
Right.
Joe, have you still been taking those Hall's cough drops? How you feeling? Are you feeling better? But when you were sick, were you taking the Hall's cough drops?
It's weird that you mentioned this, because you and I did not talk about this, but this is really weird, Sean, because I was going to mention on the show tonight. We're
going to say the positive affirmations on each rapper. That's where I was going with this.
I don't know what you're joking about now, but I wanted to say that I finally got after half the week messing around with some Ludens and some Ricola. Nothing against those folks; they're good companies. They're okay, but for me, I couldn't get Halls. I finally got some honey lemon Halls last night, and what a big difference to be back home with some Halls. And I have one in between my cheek and gum right now, because I'm still fighting this, whatever that. I still have the cough. I finally bought some Robitussin. I was able to buy some of that, and that is tremendous. And it's honey flavored, so it's like you're drinking honey, and it helps the cough suppression and the throat and everything else. To an extent, I still may be silent out every now and then.
Yeah, but I wanted to say about the Hall's cough drops. I don't know. I thought you would notice this, but on each wrapper, there's positive sayings. I have one right now. It's called there's a saying on there. It seize the day. Then it says you got to keep. I almost have to open this to see all these. Hold on.
And I did not even look at that.
Don't waste a precious minute. Seize the day. And then just these little things. Put your game face on.
Carpe diem, seize the day.
Yeah, it's carpe diem. But but it has like these positive affirmations. That's pretty cool. Like, you think you're just taking a cough. I love when companies do this. Like, be versatile. Make your packages not just promoting the company, but have some little positive affirmations that's going to help people out throughout their day. Yeah. Another one says high five yourself. So it's just little things to motivate you and keep you going throughout the day. Cause they know people are feeling like crap when they take these cough drops. They're coughing all over the place. Right. Yeah. And those little sayings might actually help people out. So
that's weird though. I just going to out of nowhere say, it's just so good to have a real Hall's Mentaliptus. And I see the writing on this wrapper in front of me, but it's so small. I do not have my glasses or whatever. So but I do see periodically there are a couple black letters written here and there. So I guess those are the aforementioned positive thoughts. I didn't notice that.
Speaking about I guess we're on the topic of cough medicines and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I have some dating apps, and one of the dating apps is Tinder. It's known for a hookup dating app type of thing, but it can lead to a relationship too. It's not all about hooking up. I don't view it that way. I want to meet a nice girl. Right. I'm 36. I'm still single, but anyway, I matched with this really good looking girl.
In this day and age, that's not a big deal.
She's only 33.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 36, so the age gap's not that big. Her profile was cool. She liked me first, and I saw it. I was like, oh, interesting. She's attractive. She's got a nice profile. So then I liked her back. We matched. Then I sent her a message last night. I just said, hey, how's it going? I said, we're both Sagittariuses. That's cool. Something simple like that. And she said, oh, LOL, we're twins. So I thought it was going well. She laughed, and then she said she wasn't feeling that good. So I'm like, oh, I wasn't feeling that good recently either, but I took some Dayquil and NyQuil to really fight through it, to get through those symptoms. And then I said, she said, I said something about staying in tonight. I was just watching movies because that's what she was doing too. And then she's like, and then I said, I have an AMC movie subscription. So she said staying in is cool. Staying in is it's cool just to chill out in your house. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But then I decided to go to the movies last night. So I saw this new Gerard Butler movie called Plane. But that's not the point of this. The point is, I told her I had a movie subscription. I told her that I took Dayquil and NyQuil, and then she didn't reply last night. I'm thinking, okay, she's busy. She's not feeling good, that type of thing. So I waited till today, to the afternoon, and I sent her another message. I said, how you feeling today? And then I go back to check a couple hours later to see if she got it. And she magically unmatched with me. So on these dating apps, you could unmatch with somebody if you don't want to talk to them anymore, if you don't want to continue pursuing it. So that really, what do you think about this, Joe? Do you think it was because I asked how she was feeling? I didn't really, we don't know each other that well. All she told me was she's not feeling well. So I said, how you feeling today? Or was it because I said I took Dayquil and NyQuil? Or was it because I have a movie subscription? Because these dating sites, sometimes, a girl unmatched with you, suddenly you have no answers to why, and you'll never know why. Do you think that she just she decided she didn't want to just pursue me romantically because I said something weird? Or was just one of those things? She wasn't feeling it anymore.
If this were me, I would probably, and if I sat down and I thought, what did I do, or what's going on, what happened? I would think maybe, Joey, maybe you came on a little too fast, and you're getting a little too intimate too quickly. And that, look, and I'm intimate, you know what I mean? I mean, intimate is like how you feeling or whatever. And
exactly.
The other person's thinking, well, you don't even know me yet. So what are you asking me this very gentle?
She's the one who told, she told me one of the first things she said was, I'm not feeling that good. And
don't get me wrong, Sean. Some young ladies would be unbelievably head over heels with you asking that question.
That's what I'm saying. So it's not meant to be, right? Obviously, something. Right. I don't think it was a Dayquil night. I overthink things.
You need the young lady that says, "Oh, isn't he sweet? Did he?"
So
and they're there.
It wasn't meant to be. She got spooked by something, or she thought I was too clingy because I asked. It was also keeping the conversation going. Because last night I'm thinking, she said she wasn't feeling well. Then I said I was going to the movies. And there was no reply. I said one thing, that was it. I didn't keep texting her. I don't do that. And then That's just smart. Today, the hours had passed. The next day, I've been over the next day, it was afternoon time. And I said, what do I say next? How do I keep this going?
Here's what you do. And I know we're live. We're doing a show. This is what I would do. And I would wait 3 days, and then I'd say, I'd give her a text and I'd say, something I said, question mark.
Yeah,
That's it. And
even that though,
then,
even if I said something I said, she might be thinking like, oh man, I have
dude, you
so many
waited
guys
3
I
days.
match with. You know, I completely forgot about him. Then all of a sudden this guy's saying like he thinks I offended him or he thinks he offended me.
No.
And
What
I
do you
could,
got to lose at this point? At this point, you got nothing to lose anyway. You say, wait 3 days, say something I said. That's it. And then just don't worry about if it's meant to be, she'll get back to you. If she doesn't respond to that, I got 2 words for her. Okay. So, and I'm not going to say them here, but, and not really, actually, there could be myriad reasons why she's not. Maybe she doesn't want to jump right in. Maybe she senses that you're like a sensitive guy and she wants one of those, but not yet. Maybe she just broke up with someone and she doesn't want, who knows? And who knows what's going through her head, but I wouldn't change anything, Sean, because there's a young lady out there that would be so head over heels that you asked her that question and were concerned about her. Now you can be too clingy and all, but I don't think what you did was. I just think it must be something to do on her end. So I wouldn't worry about it. Welcome to the world of computer freaking dating and all this other stuff. I still like the one-on-one, face-to-face, bump into someone at ShopRite type thing, because you're right there. Because this a lot of times this computer stuff is
like. When you go shopping, if you see an attractive woman, do you ever like try to spit some game, or do you just leave her alone and let her shop? How do you go about doing it? I never want to interrupt people when they're out, like, even at the gym. I never want to interrupt the girl at the gym working out. If I see a girl at the supermarket, it's like in these public places, except if you're at a bar where it's acceptable, everyone's talking to each other. How do you go about it? Like at a supermarket, what do you say? Like, oh, those mashed potatoes look pretty good.
Well, yeah, you don't want to do the jackass thing like you see on TV or something and that kind of thing. Like grab a piece of fruit or say some jack. Look, here's the thing. Lately, have I? No, absolutely not. Lately, I'm so tired and this and that. I haven't like been at that extroverted out, but I have, and basically, you're going to find, look, if she gives you a second look, really, if she looks up and you see her has a second look, you'll know. Like if you make eye contact with her and you look away and if she gives you just like a second look, you'll know. If she doesn't, fine, normally. And if she does, you could just walk up to her and say something really like, are you finding it, like joking, like you find anything you're looking for? Because I can help you or whatever. Or you just walk up and smile and say, there she is. Just like that, and see what happens. And you'll know, look, within 3.2 seconds, you will know. Because either she's going to feed back into that conversation, wanting to feedback and wanting to say something and keep the conversation rolling because she's interested in meeting someone too, or it's going to be like a quick type of, So, have I? Yes. Have I recently? No, but have I? Sure. But you don't want to overdo anything either. Yeah. But showing you that little extra look, or if you catch her looking at you, okay, at least she digs the start here. That kind of.
I think in person, like you're saying, in person is definitely a better way to meet girls. Because like, I know how to read body language and get like signs and figure out like what's going on just by looking at them. They don't have to say anything. I can figure out how they're reacting to what I'm saying, how my words are affecting them. Mm-hmm. But with this dating thing online, it's like all I had at my disposal was this conversation and just this chat. And I had no indication of how she was feeling when I said the first thing that I'm going to the movies. After she said it, she likes staying in. So now I'm thinking she said she likes staying in, and the next minute, because I told her that I was probably just going to watch basketball and stay in. But then I told her, I just decided to go to the movies. I was I was going to see a movie. So maybe she's thinking, okay, this guy just changed his mind so quickly. And then what the hell's, I don't know. I'm overthinking it, but we talked about supermarket and food. It brings me back to something about mashed potatoes. Have you ever had those Bob Evans mashed potatoes from the supermarket? The ones you just like put right in the oven or the microwave, the Bob Evans ones? Okay, so I just recently started buying them, and they're pretty good. Mm-hmm. But one thing that happened the other night, it was almost like good fortune for me. It turned from bad fortune to good fortune. I was up late. I was eating some mashed potatoes, and I guess I got a little bit mashed potatoes on my phone. But then I realized the next morning, there's mashed potatoes like in the charging port of my phone. I'm like, shit, did I break my phone? Because I was eating friggin' Bob Evans mashed potatoes like a slob late at night. I got it in my phone. Now I got to get a new phone because it wasn't charging. I was like, what the hell's going on? The phone is not charging. So I had to figure out if it was the cable, if it was the outlet, what was going on? Why wasn't the phone charging? Was it I thought I cleaned it out good enough. I used a little toothpick and I was very careful, little paper towel. And I thought I had all the moisture out and whatever was in the mashed potatoes out of the phone. So in the process of maneuvering all these wires, I switched the wire from my car to the house. But as I'm in the car, I'm just because I bought myself a brand new Honda CR-V last year. It's a very nice car. It's like the biggest purchase I've ever made, really. But anyway, I have a feature in it called Apple CarPlay, and I love using Apple CarPlay. It's like you plug it into your phone, and it's like having a phone right in the screen of your car. You never have to touch your phone. You got all your apps. You can talk on the phone. You got your GPS and the map right in the screen, so you don't have to look down at your phone for the GPS. I love it. But I haven't been able to use it, and I can't figure out why, because it keeps disconnecting randomly. If I just touch the phone a little bit, it disconnects. Even if I don't touch the phone, it disconnects. I have not been able to use Apple CarPlay. But long story short, is because I got mashed potatoes stuck in my phone, because I had to maneuver wires and try new wires, the official old Apple cable, the USB one, the lightning cable, not the new USB-C, because I had been using the USB-C adapter to use my phone because it charges quicker in the car.
Right.
I'm getting to my point here. Now the CarPlay works because I had to maneuver these wires, and I'm using an old Apple wire, and it works perfectly. So my Apple CarPlay now works just because I got Bob Evans' mashed potatoes stuck in the charging port of my phone. So good things happen, Joe. That's all I'm saying. Dude.
Well, it's not only that. I was reading a book one time about just about the way we feel about things and the way we can talk ourselves into things that everything's against us and so forth. This is a true story. I was reading. I think the author was Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth or something like that. It was one of those feel better books or whatever. But it was like Think Differently, change the way you think. There was a story about this guy. It was a true story.
Is it called How We Decide?
I don't know right now.
I read the book. I read that book.
No, it was called A New Earth. Eckhart Tolle, Tolle.
Oh yeah, I think I've actually read some of that too. I went through a phase where I was reading tons of books like that, man.
He's tremendous, and this thing's about 15 years old at least. This book, A New Earth, but anyway, I digress. I was reading something, and I think that's the book from where this came, but the story is a true story. A guy got into a car accident, and it wasn't that bad, but he got banged up. And he had damage to his car, and he was in the hospital, not life-threatening, but just banged up. And he was laying there talking about how everything is against him and everything that happens to him and all this stuff. And this is out in California. Don't you know, that night or the night after, he was a couple nights in the hospital, but that night or the night after, there was a mudslide and took out his entire house down a cliff. And it was like 3:00 in the morning when this happened. He would have been done. So sometimes we think this is the worst thing that could happen. Why did this happen? Oh my God, blah, blah. So we really don't know. So the phrase was, or the idea was, well, this is the worst thing that can happen. In parentheses, not necessarily. So sometimes things happen for the good. And I said this before, I'll say it a million times. There's an old Buddhist saying, and the Buddhist saying is, the snow will fall, every flake in its rightful place. That means every single snowflake falling out of the sky from 100,000 feet up, even higher, falls exactly where it was predetermined to land. In other words, everything that happens for a reason, happens the way it was supposed to be. And it's a nice way also of accepting things, Sean, and not getting all bent out of shape about things.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was all pissed off. I'm like looking up, because I have an iPhone 13 Pro. I'm like, how much is the iPhone 14 Pro? Should I just get a new phone? This is going to be crazy to fix. I don't have insurance on the phone, and I mashed potatoes on my fucking phone. And like, it turned out good though. Now that it worked, it charges perfectly fine, and also the Apple CarPlay works, so it worked out. Another story I have, because I just want to get through these stories before we move on to our next segment here. I got my car. I bought my car from a Honda dealership, and I get free car washes for life. And I happen to live near the Honda dealership, so I got my car washed before work the other day, and then I get to work. My car is all looking nice and everything, and I parked under a tree, not thinking too much about it because there's a lot of trees in the parking lot where I work. And then I go out there and brake, and there's bird shit all over my car. And it's all over. It's like, and I just got the car washed that day.
Always the way. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, there was bird shit like on like the handle, like where, people don't put the keys in anymore and like turn the key. You have a remote that does that. They still have them on the cars for insurance purposes for backup. And the fucking bird shit got in that little keyhole, and I was really pissed off. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, life's not bad right now. I got a podcast with one of my best friends.
Yep.
And it's just bird shit. And I also started thinking, like, is bird shitting on, I know bird shitting on people might be good luck, but is bird shitting on a car? Is that ever known for good luck? I don't know, but things happen in life, right? I got my car washed and, bird shit on it, but I also parked under a tree. So next time my decision making will be better. I won't park under those trees anymore. You know what I mean? So you learn from things, even if it's stupid little things like that.
You do, and you also put things in their proper perspective. I work with some folks. There are some adults that have some mental challenges, and that's fine, and I love them. They're near and dear to my heart. One of them the other day, last week, had a little portable radio. And she was sitting, and she was a little upset, and I can't mention any names certainly, but she was a little upset, and I say, what's I don't want to say her name, but I said her name, and I said, what's going on? When she pulled out from her bag, she pulled out her portable radio, and the little part that covers the batteries. Well,
Yep.
that was missing. She lost it somewhere. And by walking past her and the way she with her affect and everything, I thought something really happened here. Well, here she was really upset at this, because she liked her little radio. And I was explaining to her, look, we're going to find it. Either if we don't find it, we're going to get a piece of duct tape and we're going to put it over that. And the duct tape can come off every time we change the batteries. We can do that. And it's okay. It's not the end of the world, and so forth and so on. Eventually, she was able to see that. I said, if this is the worst thing that happens to you this week, you're pretty lucky. Think about that. If this is the worst thing that happens to you this week, that's not a bad week, because it's not that big a deal. And she smiled and she understood that, yeah, you are kind of right. And that's even a person with some mental challenges and so forth. And that even they're able to understand this concept. And it's a valuable concept that, woe is me all the time. Like, I feel like garbage for the last 10 days and sick and this and that. But I told you one night, I said, let me just shut up, because there are people that would give anything to feel just like I feel now. They feel so terrible every day, or they have, it's that old thing, Sean. And this is all I'm going to say. And I'm going to finish this my part of this segment. It's like the guy that said, I was feeling sorry for myself because I had no shoes, till I saw a man that had no feet. So.
Yep, absolutely. So I want to quickly ask you a question, Joe. Have you ever seen the movie Home Alone?
Parts of all those. I think there were
okay,
three.
So you know the whole story where Kevin, like his parents, they go on a vacation, family vacation. They forgot they leave Kevin at home.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember like how he's like, the people try to rob the house. They think the house is empty and he keeps messing with them. Like he's acting like people are living there. He's like doing all these things to like prevent them from coming in, like leaving like, sharp things in the ground, heating up the doorknob, that type of thing. Booby traps, basically. Do you remember any of those scenes?
Yeah, I guess I remember some of them.
Because it had Joe Pesci. It's classic. Those guys. They called themselves like the Wet Bandits, because when they rob people's houses, they leave the water running. So they want to be known as the Wet Bandits. Like that movie's, I'm telling you, bro, you got to watch that again.
Where are you going with this, Shawnee?
So I'm getting to a point here.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan of the Howard Stern show, and I listen to it religiously. He's still doing his thing. He just turned 69, and the show's still great. He's such an involved person. It's so enjoyable to hear like how far he's come with his therapy and his stories and his life and how he's dealing with his dad dying and stuff like that. But anyway, they have these two guys in the show named Richard and Sal. And they basically, their job is just to be pranksters. Like they'll just like prank call people all day and like mess with people around the office and just do these funny things. But one of their new bits really cracked me up. They called it, not necessarily, they didn't call it 911, but they called like some radio show where you just call and they take calls and people talk about their concerns and what's going on. So they called the radio show and pretended to be like a kid named Kevin. And they played clips from Home Alone. And like, because they said their house was being robbed. The kid was like, the people, imagine it's like us on the radio and some kid calls us and we're trying to help the kid get through this stressful situation. So the kid was trying to, they basically reenacted the exact same plot of Home Alone on the phone. The people didn't know that they were doing that. And they're like, oh my God, the robbers are outside the house. Okay, just heated up the doorknob with some fire. And when they touch the doorknob, they're going to burn their hands. Okay, he just burned his hand. Like, and I just left, they're trying to break in now. I just left a bunch of like sharp thumbtacks in the ground. So they'll step on that if they get in, it'll hurt them. They'll want to leave. Like, and they're replaying like the whole, like these sound bites from Home Alone. I thought that was just one of the funniest, because they do a lot of funny bits. And I thought that was just extremely clever and unique and funny. I was hoping, Joe, you saw Home Alone, you have more of a connection to it, but just imagine being like us being a radio show and some kid calling us. It's a prank call, obviously. And then you're realizing while the kid's talking, like, okay, this is just Home Alone. He's just playing clips from Home Alone. I thought it was pretty funny. So I just wanted to mention that.
That is neat. That's neat. All right. I want to get to my Snapple Fact. All right.
You want to do Snapple? We're going to do Snapple Fact later, but let's do it now. Why not?
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure of our sequence. I get mixed up sometimes.
I wanted to talk a little bit about Jeff Beck and Lisa Marie Presley, but let's do the Snapple Fact first. Let's get it out of the way, man. What do you got?
Yeah, here it is. It's number 1277. I found it was interesting. There are more tigers owned by American citizens, right, than there are wild in the wilderness on the face of the earth. There are more tigers owned by Americans than there are roaming the wild at this point. That's
Absolutely.
interesting.
You told me that earlier, and I was like, that's interesting. But it got me thinking. That show Tiger King with Joe Exotic.
Yeah.
That guy he's just a random guy who owns a zoo, and then had like these tigers. But then I looked it up. Yeah, you're right. More tigers owned by Americans. Apparently, there's 10,000 tigers in the United States, and there's few requirements for ownership. Virtually anyone can own, breed, or sell tigers. And I'm like, whoa! Like, apparently, I think there's a $30 license fee, and 30 states. Got to remember, there's not a lot of states. 30 states allow private ownership of predatory exotics like tigers. All you need is the USDA conservation label form, a $30 license. 9 states don't even need a license. Anyone could breed, own, and sell tigers. So that's, wow.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm not crazy about that at all. Because
I'm nervous for the people who own the tigers. They're probably being eaten. How can they not get eaten randomly? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I saw bits and pieces of that show you're talking about, Tiger King or whatever it is down in Tulsa, Joe Tiger or something like that.
Exotic, yep.
Joe Exotic, that somehow one spouse killed the other and fed them to the damn. I don't know, but that's bizarre in and of itself. But just the fact, Sean, that there are people, probably a lot more than we even realize, we probably go out for a bike ride or a jog along a certain roads and probably don't even realize that maybe several hundred feet from where we're running on the road, especially in these rural areas, there could be people with live tigers that they own. And I just don't like it. Because every once in a while you see on the news that, one of them gets loose here and there. And you want to talk about you want to talk about a killing machine. You got a shark in the water, the great white shark in the water, and you've got a tiger or a grizzly bear. When I say tiger, I mean any big cat like that, or a grizzly bear on land. It's a killing machine. And the nightmare scenario is one of these things gets loose and they will go after a dog.
That's happened. I mean, I belong to some township Facebook groups or towns that I live in or have lived in. And, you'll see people post like, oh my God, like on the Ring doorbell, I saw a bear roaming around. There's a bear roaming around. These are towns that are not known for bears. I'm like, these things happen. And like, we also have Six Flags Great Adventure in the area, and they have a safari. And there's been times where like some of the animals I believe have gotten loose, and we're like thinking like, okay, imagine running into a fucking wild animal. Like that's wild.
Exactly.
Did you see Harold and Kumar go to White Castle by any chance?
Yeah, that one I did.
Remember the scene where they're like high as balls and they meet like a tiger? I'm pretty sure it was a tiger, right?
I remember them. Then I remember I remember the movie. I don't remember a tiger per se, but I remember the movie.
It was a big creature. I don't know if it was a lion or for some reason I think it was a tiger because I remember like the stripes. I don't think it was a lion.
But were they seeing that because they were?
No. I think that they literally that happened. They were high as balls, and then at one point, obviously, the movie takes some creative freedoms, and they start like I think they ride the tiger. Or, I don't know if they imagine like obviously the movie's like it's an absurd movie, so you could just things are not all going to be true. So at some point they're high as hell and they're like riding a tiger to where they have to go or something, if I remember correctly. But so you heard about Jeff Beck dying, right?
I did.
And what he was 78, so he lived a pretty long life. All I know about him is that he was considered one of the best guitarists of all time, top 10, but he was never in some big name bands. Like he replaced Clapton in a band called the Yardbirds in like the 60s, but he was with them for a short time. He had some issues where they kicked him out, I think. But he's a phenomenal guitarist and it made headline news. And, You said he was kind of influential in the blues scene a little bit.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned this too, because we were talking about on this show like 2 weeks ago or whatever, when I brought up the Buddy Guy song and the fact that the blues were the blues artists, Buddy Guy, Muddy Waters, B.B. King, Robert Johnson, all those guys were very influential to the guys that we idolized growing up. Your Eric Claptons, your Keith Richards, your Jeff Becks, certainly. All your Jimmy Page, all these cats, all these younger cats, they all were influenced by the older guys. So when I heard Jeff Beck died the other day, I did a little thing with some of the folks I work with. They like music. They have issues, and they have their certain psychological issues and certain cognitive limitations they have, but they also love music, and just like you and I do. And some of them can really understand about one guy I talk with about all this stuff. He just starts rattling off names. So what I was doing was I made the connection of, hey, Jeff Beck died today. And here, let's go on YouTube and let's look at Jeff Beck over here with B.B. King about 10 years ago. Or let's look at this and that, because a couple of them used to play the instrument, like the guitar here and there and that kind of thing. So they really ate it up. But I made that connection just the other day. It was ironic. And I made that connection. One of the reasons why I selected 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, why I selected Buddy Guy, is I wanted people to realize that there was an absolute strong connection between our guitar heroes growing up, all our rock dudes, but to understand and pay homage to from whence their skills came, and that was they had natural ability, but they also realized that the fathers of the blues were really, really talented dudes, and they went down. It was just a beautiful thing, because you got a bunch of white Anglo-Saxon or whatever, English and so forth, guitarists and rock and roll artists going down to the Mississippi Delta and really locking in with African American men down there who were picking it before they were. It's just that total connection. But yeah, Jeff Beck passed away. God rest his soul. It's unbelievable. He was 78 years old, and I just can't. It's a reminder how time flies. Absolutely. And how it's the tick tock, it's ticking. So.
And did you hear about Lisa Marie Presley died? She was only 54. She was Elvis's only child. So from the moment she was born, it was almost like royalty being born in England, like the royal children, like Prince Harry and Prince William and all those guys. She was royalty in American culture. She was Elvis Presley's only kid, and she was his daughter. She was very attractive. I think she tried, to be a musician at one point.
She looked like him too, Sean. She looked like Elvis.
Yeah, she was following in his footsteps, his legend. He died when he was 42. He died very early. So she had to live most of her life without a father, and she had to be in the spotlight. Everything she was doing was in the spotlight. She owned Graceland. I think he left Graceland to her. And then she was married to Michael Jackson for 2 years, because that guy was one of the biggest pop stars ever. Obviously, he might have been a fucking monster in his personal life, but I digress on that. She was married to him. She was in the spotlight, and now she's dead at 54, and she had a tough life. Her dad died early, and her son was only 27. He killed himself recently. So, it wasn't the best ending for her, but rest in peace, Lisa Marie Presley. And Joe, if you have anything to say, you're welcome to.
Well, the only thing that struck me about her is that looking at clips from her, from the recent clips from her, she looked like hell, and she looked like somebody. And I'm not saying anything. I don't know anything. I'm saying she physically looked like somebody who was struggling with some kind of substance abuse or addiction, or she looked like that. I'm not saying she was at all. Yeah, I'm not making any, but I'm saying that one thing I can say is that she looked physically like someone who was. Now, time will tell, I guess. And sometimes you have enough money, you can squelch anything. But who knows, the old man he got hooked on, and I'm not saying that judgmentally. People have problems and stuff happens, and you can't. So but Elvis certainly had his problems, and he solved them with alcohol and drugs, and things happened, and his health eroded and so forth. And I don't know if she's a chip off the old block, I don't know. But sometimes when people are born with all this money and all this fame and all this stuff, you think they've got it made. But I've seen tragedy fall in that family. I've seen tragedy fall in the Kennedy family like nobody's business. So I don't know. I just don't know sometimes that, all the money and fame and everything and having it easy isn't always a cakewalk. So God rest her soul, though,
And yeah, rest in peace, Jeff Beck. Rest in peace, Lisa Marie Presley. Moving on to the living, Vincent D'Onofrio.
You say that it's D'Onofrio. Sorry.
I think it's because I thought a lot about this. I went on YouTube and there was a pronunciation video just for Vincent D'Onofrio's name.
Okay.
So I think it's D'Onofrio.
Well, I'm going to yield to you because I know I'm going to yield to you if you really researched it that much, because it is a different kind of spelling. But everyone always says Vincent D'Onofrio, but you're right. His grandfather may say, it's the way you say it over here. And say it for me one more time.
D'Onofrio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say it both ways, just in case our go ahead.
You chose the actor. And why did you choose this gentleman?
Why? Because he falls into those, those every once in a while is going to be a giant, and in between, and I say this every show in case someone's just tuning in, they don't know. You got a fence post here, and then 100 feet away, you have another fence post with all those little wickets in between. Those fence posts are legends here, and another legend 100 feet down the road, and another post. In between are these actors that worked their ass off all their career. They never really made it big, but they've been around forever. They made a good living. Not feeling sorry for them, but they just aren't those top front, and these are actors who, for the most part, you could mention their name and you could say, who is that? And then when you show someone the picture, they go, oh, I know who you're talking about. I just didn't know their name. So he falls into that category, and I've always liked him. I thought he's cool. And he's a big boy, too. He's a bigger boy like I am, too.
He's known. What I know about him is I've seen him in a ton of stuff. You're going to talk about your top 5 in a second, but he was just a little background. He's born in 1959 in Brooklyn, New York. So I think he's got the New York accent. He's a New Yorker, so he fits those New York roles really well. And he's known as an actor's actor. What people call guys sometimes, he's a guy's guy. He's known as an actor's actor. And what I know is that he can be very intimidating. He can play these roles where he can be a real jerk off, an intimidating big guy you don't want to deal with. He started off in theater, but then while he was in theater, starting his acting career, he worked as a bodyguard, a bouncer, and a delivery man. Now, the bodyguard and bouncer makes sense because he really leaned into that in a lot of his roles. He gets a lot of roles where he plays a big, intimidating guy.
Mm-hmm.
You have your top 5. So what are you thinking for the top 5, Joe?
Okay, the top 5 is actually a movie he did. It was only a couple of years ago. I saw a good portion of it. It was good. He was a detective in this movie. And my man Ed Harris was in this movie too, ironically enough. And I'm going to do Ed Harris one night too, down the road eventually. But Ed Harris is the same type of actor. But the movie was called Run All Night. It was about 5 years ago, maybe, or whatever, 3 years ago, whatever. But it was a good movie. He plays a detective in that movie. And like I said, it's an interesting movie.
Yeah, I think Ed Harris is in it, and so is Liam Neeson. He's in a ton of action movies. So
yeah, it gets involved with organized crime, and all of a sudden, and anytime I watch those movies with organized crime, you get scared, it's scary, like you cross up the wrong person, and So it was one of those movies. It was probably maybe his least, but that's why it's 5. 4 is he played in the movie JFK way back in the day. He played Bill Newman. Bill Newman was to this day, he's still alive. He was a plumber in 1964, and the last anyone heard of him, he's still a plumber. and it doesn't work as more often, but he was an eyewitness to the shooting, and he is one of those witnesses who laid down his testimony, and his testimony is impeccable. Everyone's tried to poke holes in it. No one can poke holes in it, and he suggests, insists that one of those bullets, at least one of those bullets came from in front of John Kennedy, i.e. the grassy knoll. So he played that character in that movie JFK in 1993. It was 1991 or something, but it was a damn good movie, and he played a significant, not major, but a significant role. I liked him in the movie because I liked that story too. Because I don't know if we're ever going to know what really went down there. Number 3, I'm just going to put. He played a detective in Law and Order: Criminal Intent, and his time there, I thought he was pretty cool in that stuff too. You talk about a New Yorker, and I thought he was really cool in all those TV, and that's not just a TV series. Law and Order I think it holds the record for consecutive series, Sean. I think this is 25, 26, 27 years this thing's been running.
Yep. They have all different variations and all different new versions of it. It's always, constantly expanding the Law and Order universe, it seems like.
And it's tremendous. If you ever get in the mood to binge those things, you could sit there all day. You could sit there for 12 hours, 14 hours. Anyway, I digress. Number 2, who could ever forget Men in Black? The big bug guy. I think his name was Edgar in the movie, but he was the big bug in Men in Black. He was the big guy in the overalls that come out, and no one could.
Yeah. I didn't realize that was him. Wow,
that's him. Yes, and it was it was interesting. It was a good. I liked him there. Number 1, and you could probably, number 1 is a movie, and I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to make a bold statement right here and right now. Number 1, he played in a movie, and he led the scene, and I think this scene is one of the most profound, shocking, heart-stopping, surprising scenes that it's not happy, but it's a scene that I think is one of the most profound I've ever seen anywhere on video. That scene is in a movie, and the movie is called Full Metal Jacket. Full Metal Jacket is about the Vietnam War. Vincent D'Onofrio gained, I think, 40 or 45, maybe 50 pounds, they said, to do that movie because he's playing the role of a big, awkward, because Vince, normally he's big, but he's in pretty good shape. He's not roly-poly. Well, in order to play this character, which was a big, awkward, for lack of a better term, like goofy type of big and clumsy type of
plays Private Pile, right? Private Pile,
sort of like a private pile.
No, and his character in the movie, I believe, is Private Pile.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's right. I forgot his actual name, but ironically, you say that. But he's sort of like a Gomer Pyle type, right? But he's always clumsy. Doesn't put his rifle together right. He always costs the platoon, like early bed or something like that because of his mistakes. And it was one of the most, it was a scene earlier where they lumped him up one night, and I felt so bad for and anyway, his life was hell because he was taking all kinds of stuff from his other fellow soldiers for always goofing up, and his sergeant was one of the most miserable sons of bitches I've ever seen in my life. The actor played a good role because I wanted to strangle this son of a bitch. I mean, you just, I obviously wouldn't, but I mean, he was a real bastard. Anyway, cut to the chase. The scene that I'm telling you is, it starts in a Marine barracks. It's dark. It's 3:00 in the morning, and one guy, Joker, my man Joker, wakes up because Vince D'Onofrio's character is sitting in the John, and he's screaming at the top of his lungs, "This is my rifle. It is a standard rifle. Give it to me." And he's going through this whole thing that he would normally
interject really quick. I want to continue with this. I'll let you continue. Sorry for he's sitting there at the gun, like, because they have to have this full process.
Well, not yet. Don't mention the gun.
No, I'm not going to mention that. But the guy says to him, as he looked, one of his like other military people that he's with.
Not yet, though, Sean. I want to get there. I want to get there.
Are you going to say the part where he says
Yes. I'm going to get there. Let me get there.
Good. I'm glad. This is why you're my co-host, because you know what the hell works here. So,
I love you, bro, but let me okay. If I don't hit it, then you can hit it. But anyway, he's chirping at 3:00 in the morning, sitting on a toilet amongst several toilets lined up. It's a Marine barracks, but his buddy, the guy looking out for him, Joker, hears him, and he goes running into where the toilets are, and he's sitting there in his underwear. D'Onofrio is with his rifle, and he's just got this weird look on his face, and his buddy runs in and says, hey, man, what are you doing? You don't want to do this. You don't want to do that. And all of a sudden, by now, the sergeant, this real nasty bastard, he comes running in. And he says to D'Onofrio, you better hand that rifle over there. I'm going to do the blah, 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 blah. And he turns and he looks at him as this drill sergeant is yelling at him at the top of his lungs. He takes his rifle, and he puts a bunch of holes into the sergeant, and the sergeant drops, and his buddy is now sitting there thinking, oh my God, am I next? And he says, hey, listen, don't relax. You can still get, you listen, don't do it. He says, I want to tell you something. Put the rifle down or you're going to be living in a world of shit. And he looks at him and says, I am living in a world of shit. And he takes the gun, Sean, he takes the gun, puts it to his own chin, and I'm telling you, it's graphic, in the movie.
That's why I knew I had a feeling you were going there, but I just watched that scene today. Mm-hmm. Basically, you're right on everything, but before the sergeant, the drill sergeant comes in, they have a little conversation, him and that guy, and he says, you look like you're in a world of shit. You're about to be in a world of shit. And then that's when he turns to them, like he just said, he says, I am in a world of shit. So he says that before he shoots the sergeant, but you're dead on with everything else. It's been a while. I literally just watched the scene today. I wouldn't have known otherwise, but
okay.
He says that I'm in a world of shit. Right? He killed, before he kills the sergeant. So that was
okay. And that's fine, Chuck, because I haven't actually seen the damn thing in about 15 years. So that's not bad. My memory.
You have a great memory, though. You have a great memory, because and
I appreciate you holding up there for a second. Let me get that out.
Because I wanted to make sure you got that in, because that was very that scene was like, whoa,
Well, those words are pretty.
You're about to be in a world of shit. And he's like, he looks at him. I am in a world like people are going through hell sometimes. Like, I'm already in a world of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the look in his eye, he played that off really well too. Yep. And he says, when he first come walking in, he goes, hi, Joker, like that. You could tell, whoa, something's different here. But that was Sean, I'm telling you, in all the movies I've ever seen anywhere, because normally with these movies, what happens there is it comes really, really, really close. But okay, he lays the weapon down, and everybody, you know how you've seen it a million times on the screen. You weren't expecting that, and then the double whammies when he took himself out, and there was matter all over the place, and you could see that. That was one of the most unforgettable scenes I've ever seen in my life. Yep. So anyway.
I like your top five. I didn't really do a top five. I picked up some movies that he was in that I liked, that I saw. One movie that I liked is I went down a rabbit hole. I saw this movie called Death Wish in 2018 with Bruce Willis, and he's in it too. Bruce Willis plays Paul Kersey. But that was originally played in a whole franchise. There was a whole franchise of Death Wish type movies. I think there was pretty sure there was like 5 Death Wishes. Charles Bronson was a famous actor. He played Paul Kersey in all these movies. It's a classic story, like, someone close to him gets killed and he turns into a normal guy, into a vigilante. But D'Onofrio was in that. I think he played Kersey's brother in that. But he was also in another movie called The Judge, which is very good. Escape Plan. He was in a comedy movie with a breakup with Vincent Vaughn. So he got range. He was in some comedy movies too.
He indeed does. And he's been
Imposter, a movie called Imposter with Gary Sinise. Adventures in Babysitting. That movie was classic. Adventures in Babysitting. I believe it's from 1987. But anyway, he's been in a lot of movies, and I'm glad you chose him because he's kind of off people's radars. But he's a very intimidating type of character. You fit him into these roles where he can be, he can strong arm you, right, with his words and his actions too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So thank you for choosing that for sure, man.
No problem. Thank you.
I want to move on to our segment. Unless you have anything more to say about Vincent.
No, I'm good.
real versus fake news story segment we got here. So I'm going to give you 3 stories, Joe. You got to pick out the real one. There's 2 fake and 1 real.
All right, and I'm going to have some stories for you too soon. So we'll go.
Okay.
We'll do this tonight. It's your turn now. But go ahead.
Okay, so first story that I read, we talked about this recently. The show Cheers, because Kirstie Alley was on Cheers. They're remaking Cheers, so that should be pretty cool. Second story is Prince Harry, the one married to Meghan Markle, who they kind of separated from the royal family. He says psychedelics have helped him with PTSD and grief. Imagine a royal family member taking psychedelics. You're like, oh, I didn't know they're allowed to do that. And then the other story is states are going to limit the amount of scratch off lottery tickets you can buy at once. So you can't just walk into a store and say, I want 10 scratch offs. They're going to cap you at a certain, I think this is crazy. Why don't they let people just buy lottery tickets, right? So, what do you think's real? What do you think's fake? There's 2 fake and 1 real.
Okay, so I don't buy the Cheers thing. I just don't. I don't know why. I don't. That leaves me between Prince Harry and they're limiting the lottery tickets. I'm going to have to say that I would believe that Prince because I heard recently some story about how he had a lot of his mom passing at an early age, and then he was in combat, and he actually took the lives of a few people in combat. That's got to mess with you psychologically, and the fact that he doesn't have to report to a daily job from 8 to 4 or 9 to 5, that it's possible that he could experiment with whatever he wanted to experiment with. So I'm going to say that the true story is and look, I don't know, but I'll say the true story is the true story about him.
Ding, ding, ding. You are correct.
Okay.
I think you're 3 for 3. We've done the segment 3 times and you've been pretty accurate each time,
No, I think I got it wrong the second time. I think I'm
No,
2
you got
1.
it right, man.
I got this one right, but this is the third time. I think I got
Terrell,
one of them.
The second one was last episode, I believe. Terrell Owens making a comeback. You got that right.
Yeah, I did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So you got you're using logic, and I like how you explain yourself. If people can really get in your brain and hear your thought process. You really explained it well about the possibility that Prince Harry, he could have experimented with drugs.
You got to think things through. And I like to think aloud when I have something like that. So that's cool.
Yeah. That actually connects perfectly to our current event, because the current event that I chose today was actually about Prince Harry. It's about him using psychedelic drugs and the whole idea of treating extreme grief with psychedelics. So in Prince Harry's new memoir, this is an article from New York Times, but he wrote a new memoir. He talks about taking psychedelics to deal with the ongoing pain of his mother, Princess Diana. Obviously, she died in a car accident in the 90s. So he included a video of himself. He's undergoing something called EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. It helps people with post-traumatic stress disorder cope with triggering memories.
Yeah.
And at the center of it, obviously, the death of his mother and being famous all those years. He was only 12 when she died. He said these mind-altering drugs, there's been research, they can treat depression and other mental health disorders. It's still illegal in most places. But there's underground sessions. You can go abroad for it. There's clinical trials. But there's scant evidence that it's psilocybin. It's a psychoactive ingredient in hallucinogen mushrooms. That might be, there's scant evidence. I use the word scant. There's not a lot of evidence so far, but they can be used to treat, process grief and trauma. Cause they're saying, grief is not a mental illness. It's a normal human experience that comes after a loss of a loved one. And tons of people are losing their loved ones, and there's a lot of sadness, anger, and disbelief when a person dies. You want to see what can help you. A lot of people get really sad and depressed. Grief is tough. And there's something called prolonged grief. And people with prolonged grief, they feel like life has lost its meaning, and a part of themselves has also died, and they have intense emotional pain, and they feel psychological numbness. So, about 10% of people mourning a loved one develop prolonged grief, and they have a higher risk of death suddenly or traumatically if they have the prolonged grief. So, we talked about Lisa Marie Presley. She might have had prolonged grief too from her dad dying. You never know. But Prince Harry, we're talking about this article, how his mother died when he was 12, and she was obviously famous as a princess. But, people live with the grief, and they usually deal with it in waves, and they deal with it. But sometimes prolonged grief it's tougher to deal with. But Psychedelics can kind of act as a very intense, fast psychotherapy. So they can feel like it can put you in a state of like consciousness, and you feel like you're very connected to your deceased person who died. And they think psychedelics can induce something called a plastic state. It helps rapidly form new connections between cells. So that's amazing. Like it could be actually physically healing your brain just by taking these psychedelics.
Mm-hmm.
So you can reconstruct your identity, and reconstruct these past traumas and make your life more flexible and growth oriented after you experiment with these psychedelics. So, a person that's such a high profile person as Prince Harry talking about this, it just gets it out in the open and people start looking into this. Wow. Can I, because they call it microdosing, right? So microdosing is basically when you take a fraction, you don't get the psychedelic effects. You don't get high. You take a fraction much lower than, you would take to get high. And, take an LSD or the psilocybin, the ingredient in mushrooms, but apparently it can really help with grief. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And what do you think about that? Do you think there's anything to it? Think that we should research this more? This could be more of a mainstream thing that could help people deal with grief and whatnot by microdosing and taking psychedelics, because they're, we don't have to use them just to get high. We could use them to heal ourselves.
Sure. Well, it's the same thing where, what we have to do, first thing we have to do is get rid of the instant pictures that we draw, the neuro association that we draw right away to something that says, oh no, like with cannabis, and so forth and so on. I mean, it's legal now, folks. It's legal. And I could just tell you, as someone, who's treated pain with opiates and have tried treating pain with cannabis, not smoking or anything like that, but the little edible type things. Once in a while, they're legal. It's legal now, right? So you pay attention to what you're doing, but I tried that for pain, and I'm going to tell you, it softens muscles up. And does it give you a nice little thing, like maybe you had a couple of drinks? Fine, but liquor stores are still open too, aren't they? So, I mean, if you could stay home or do the right thing, and the same thing here is why I'm trying to, the same thing here with this. There's nothing worse than feeling like you don't want to go on. There's nothing worse than feeling like D'Onofrio said, like you're living in a world of shit. Like everything is horrible. You're hurting so bad that you wish sometimes you could lay down and go to sleep and just not wake up. You just wonder what it's all. When you get that bad and grief gets that bad, no one should have to suffer that way. If they don't have to. And if there's anything around, whether it's a hallucinogenic drug or whatever it is, yes, you have to understand too. Those mushrooms that grow in the ground, they're natural. The cannabis grows from the ground. Who's to say the creator or the divine engineer that put all this together didn't put it there for us to use exactly the way we're using it? Who knows? It's not like
exactly.
So it's part of the whole plan. It's like, here, guys, I'm going to put this here to make things a little more comfortable. You'll figure out what to do. I know you're going to figure out what to do with it, right? So I don't know, but what I do know is I'm all for it. And especially what you're talking about is it's being done in a clinical setting, very carefully, very strategically. Yes, they're doing some concurrent research with this as they're doing it, but I've seen shows even a year or two ago about this. This isn't just brand new. So yes, if there's any way you can help people who are feeling really bad, absolutely. And if it's done right, yes.
Yeah. And that gets me to my next point. We're doing the Bryan Kohberger segment just to give updates on this potential monster who killed 4 University of Idaho students. We talk about people dealing with grief and pain, and they react to, some people kill other people, some people kill themselves. Apparently this guy, we don't know if he's a sociopath, but we talked about last episode about sociopaths, how they don't really feel emotion and remorse.
Right.
They have to fake it. Apparently he was in the police car. He told the police that he was sad. Do you think that was him just kind of acting? He's just like, oh, I'm very sad what happened.
Sure. Because
Yeah.
well, I
So
mean, and that's like I said, they get so good at that little. Geez, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel. I'm supposed to feel that. Boom, and they get so good at it that it's hard to perceive, like just looking at them. But that's what they do. And he's sitting in there, he probably had all kinds of time to think, okay, what should I say? Okay, I'll say this, and it's funny. People can say a lot of things, you know. It's like that old saying, I can't hear a word you're saying because your actions are so loud. I hearken back to this case, and I'm not going to be. I hearken back to this case, and it was unconscionable. It was inconscionable. What this woman did, she drove her two little baby boys into a lake and left them and abandoned the vehicle. And those poor kids drowned. And she was standing there a couple hours later, talking into the camera, right? Talking into the camera, talking to her boys that if they were out there. And she's going, your mama loves you and she's looking for you. And this monster, 3 hours before this, drowned her boys. Okay.
yep.
And she's doing all this crying stuff on the TV with the microphone in front of her, but never a drop of tear. So that whole thing with my voice is breaking up and I miss you so much. You would think there's going to be something. And the police even said that that's one thing they look for. People with the crocodile tear, with the fake,
Yep.
But if your voice is cracking that much and your breathing is altered that much, there's going to be at least a tear or two. It was nothing. It was all genuine. And the FBI and people like that, that's just one little thing they look for. They can tell by your affect and by a lot of things and inconsistencies. And so anyway, I just, I take it from there, and I just look over to here. That he was probably looking at them with this blank, goofy look that you see him with the TV on all the, and he says, "Oh, I'm really sad."
Yep.
Oh yeah, you look sad, dude. Okay.
Because we talked about like people who like deal with like emotion and pain, and the guy in Full Metal Jacket, Private Pile, D'Onofrio's character.
Yep.
Prince Harry dealing with his grief and using drugs to experiment to improve his brain and deal with the emotions. But apparently, this guy Kohberger, like, he was bullied in high school by a lot of popular girls. He was a chubby, awkward misfit. He left love letters for girls and telling her girls he liked her and stuff. And, the girl didn't give him the time of the day, and he was bullied by a lot of girls. And then that was in middle school. And then high school, he got himself into shape. He turned his life around. He started boxing, lost weight. Apparently he was a different person. But then he said he was working out constantly, was kind of aggressive. He had a short fuse and was constantly trying to change his style and personality to fit in with cliques. So this young man had a lot of mental struggles and, got bullied and stuff. And apparently, like in class, when he would be in class for his he was getting his PhD at Washington State for criminology, I think, become a criminologist. Apparently, like, he would like really like just like disrespect girls in class. Like, he would just like, he wouldn't like respect what they were saying, and he would kind of like talk down to them. This is just people's hearsay type of stuff. But, he's, if he's a sociopath and he's a crazy lunatic killer, that's horrible. But if he was a person who got bullied repeatedly in high school and didn't fit in, and then he like had a thing against women, and then one day he like took his anger out and killed people, stabbed them to death, that's also sad, because we really need to help people around us. And he could have, it sounded like he started to like do the right things in high school by working out and getting in shape and trying to improve himself naturally. But, the idea of him studying to become a criminologist and figure out how criminals work, is he wanted to help people like criminals apparently, but then he goes out and kills 4 people, stabs them to death. Like, that's horrible. So, you never know what people are going through, but it's certainly not the right answer to use violence to get your anger out, right? Because you're ruining other people's lives, and you're forever infamous in history for being a fucking monster.
Yeah, I mean, look, we all have, and just a minute ago, I thought I lost my mic, so I don't know if you heard me or not, but I was like, are you there? I just thought I lost my mic, and it was my mistake if I did. Anyway, I'm back now. Everything's good. We all have things in life that are really bothersome and pain that we go through. But there's nothing. Okay, he wasn't as popular. If meeting ladies was tough for him, and he was socially awkward or whatever. That's all fine. That happens. It's life. But that's not a reason to do this kind of a,
No,
I
there's
don't.
no excuse.
There's nothing. There's really nothing to go take an innocent individual that has nothing to do with you or your pain just because they don't have that pain. It would be like someone who's never been part of a couple or anything like that and going around and killing couples because they hooked up and he never did. That's it. That's the most ridiculous. That's sickening. Look, you do what you have to do, and there's, eventually or whatever happens. But, we all have pain. We all have crosses to bear, and that's it. You don't go to some innocent person. There's nothing that justifies that ever anywhere. It's unforgivable.
Well said. Let's move on to better topics. Sports. Right now, the Chargers are playing the Jags, and Joe, I don't know if you know this, but Trevor Lawrence is 4 for 16 with 30 yards and 4 interceptions in the first half. It's not even over, man. It's kind of sad. It's his first playoff start. He's supposed to be the top-ranked quarterback this year. He was coming into his own. He had a bad rookie year. But, 4 for 16 for 30 yards and 4 interceptions in the first half versus the Chargers at home. He's at home. He's playing in Jacksonville.
Wow.
27-0 right now. Not looking good for the Jags. And some of the analysts on NBC before the game, I think 4 of them, 4 out of the 7 analysts who predicted picked the Jags. So obviously, they could come back. You never know. The Vikings came back from, being down 33-0 to the Colts this year. But, Herbert's 14 for 22 for 130 yards and a touchdown. I think Herbert has some playoff experience, but not looking good for the Jags right now. But I want to quickly talk about my bad gambling beats. I had good ones today, but I want to talk about the bad ones first. So the other night I put money on the Mavericks to it was negative 4.5. So they had to win by 5 points. They were losing to the Lakers late in the fourth quarter. Then Luka Doncic hit a game-tying three-pointer. Then they did the same thing in overtime, but I still didn't win the bet because I needed them to win to win by at least 5 points. So they get to double overtime. The Mavericks are up by 4 points. The Lakers shoot a three-pointer with 10 seconds left. They missed the three-pointer, and instead of immediately fouling just to make the Mavericks go back to the foul line, so they still have a chance. There's still 7 seconds left. There could be miracles. You never know. The Lakers choose not to foul. So the Mavericks win by 4 points. I lose my bet by 0.5 points. I had $25 in the game. Ruined my whole night. I stayed up to watch fucking double overtime of Lakers Mavs, and I wanted to watch something else. And I was like, when is this game going to end? I want to win my bet. Anyway, that was a bad beat. Then another bad beat happened. I had Julius. This one's more out of my control. I had Julius Randle on the Knicks. I had Jalen Brunson over 19 points. I had Julius Randle at the Knicks negative 4.5 points. Versus the Wizards, or it was 3.5 or 4.5. And I had Julius Randle hitting 3 threes. Now I looked at his recent games. He usually shoots at least 8 threes a game, and he makes at least 3. So I'm like, oh, he can, all I needed was over 2.5. Anyway, long story short is he only hit 2 threes. He missed the rest of my parlay hit. Brunson had over 30 points. Brunson's been on a tear. Brunson's averaging since the Christmas break. I believe Brunson in the new year, Brunson's averaging over 33 points a game. That's my Villanova guy. So I'm very proud of him. But Julius Randle didn't hit the other threes, so I lost that. But I think the other Mavs bet was more of a worse beat because, there was more control with the Lakers. Logically, the Lakers should have fouled, and the Mavericks should have gone to the foul line, and the Mavericks should have won by about 6 points, at least 5 points. So that was a bad beat. The Julius Randle not hitting threes was a bad beat. But then today I had some good beats. I'll talk about the positive things too. Today I had a parlay where I needed DK Metcalf to get 59.5 yards, so 60 yards receiving. And I needed the running back from the Seahawks, Kenneth Walker, is an excellent young running back, to get 60 yards too, 59.5 yards. And I needed Christian McCaffrey to score a touchdown. So McCaffrey scored early. I was like, okay, I can breathe now. Metcalf got over 90 yards early, so I had that one because all I needed him to get 60 yards. But then Kenneth Walker had 56 yards in the third quarter. So I'm thinking all he needs is 4 more damn yards. So I'm stressing about him at work. I'm stressing about it. I'm like, just get 4 yards. Because Pete Carroll put the backup in, DJ Dallas in. I'm like, why are they, they're losing. I'm like, why don't they keep Walker? I know you got to keep your backs healthy, but he's got momentum. Keep Kenneth Walker in. So anyway, he was stuck at 56 yards until the last 2 minutes of the game. So my friend at work comes up to me. I'm all disappointed. I'm like, he couldn't get 4 more yards. What the hell is Pete Carroll doing? And he shows me the most recent play. It's like Kenneth Walker rushes for 6 yards. I'm like, oh, thank God. So I won my bet. Kenneth Walker got the yards he needed.
All right, good.
So I had bad beats and I had good beats. That's a highs and lows of gambling, man. That's what makes gambling fun. You're addicted to like you have some action. You got some skin in the game, even if it's just for $5. You just want to win your bet, especially if you're competitive. So those are my good and bad beats. We'll do sports quickly because the show's gone a little bit long. Our sweet spot's about an hour. The show's been a little bit over an hour. Eagles have a bye week, Joe. So we can talk about. We're going to do another episode on Monday or Tuesday. So we'll talk about the Eagles' upcoming game and their upcoming opponent.
Right.
Cowboys are playing Monday night versus Brady. As far as playoffs go, the Seahawks the Seahawks lost to the 49ers today. The 49ers, it was close. It was 23-17. The Seahawks had the ball at the goal line, and Geno Smith fumbled the ball, and the 49ers got the ball back. And the next 3 possessions, the 49ers scored touchdowns to break the game wide open. So they won by 18 points.
That's a scary team.
What's your thoughts about the playoffs so far? You have anything? What are your
I'll run it down to you real quick. We are. I haven't seen my football team in a month because I don't know who they've been for the last 4 weeks. They better wake up and they better wake up fast and get healthy fast. Otherwise, they're not going to be around long. If they start playing like they played a month ago, they can beat anybody. If they play the way they played the last 3-4 weeks, they're going to be out of here in a hurry. The San Francisco 49ers are a dangerous team. The Cowboys, I don't like them, but I think they're a better team than Tampa. And I think
what about the Brady effect, though? The Tom Brady effect. You don't think he's never lost to the Cowboys? It's on Monday night. It's prime time. You can spoil the Cowboys' whole season because the Bucs haven't had a great year. They're playing kind of spoiler.
I keep talking. That's all good stuff, and I hope it happens, but I don't think it will. I think the Cowboys are a better football team.
Cowboys win. Okay. I like what you think. I don't. Are you trying to jinx the Cowboys secretly, though?
I'm really not. Because I'd rather just not even deal with it. But if you asked me who I'd rather play, I think I probably would, like you just said, I'd rather play is Dak than play Tom because the guy's done it. You can have him down by 18 points with 4 minutes left and he can still beat you. So it's really weird. So I think Dallas, look, Tampa Bay's been really lousy all year long with a couple of big wins here or there. They're defensively, they're nothing like they used to be. So Dallas is going to be able to score on them. And you turn it around, can Tom Brady and his offense, who struggled all year as well. That Dallas defense is not bad. They have a pretty good pass rush. They don't cover really well, but if you get home, it doesn't matter. And the one thing you can do with Brady is he doesn't move around enough. So if you get a pass rush on him, it could be a long day. I look for the Cowboys to win. I just think they're a better team. And if they don't, that's cool too. It doesn't bother me as an Eagles fan. It doesn't bother me. But what I'm hoping to see is I'm calling it right now, the Giants to win over. And it's basically just, it's a one thing. I want it so much, I'm going to pick it. I want the Giants to beat, the Vikings, who really are nowhere freaking near as good as their deceptive record. Okay, they're not. They're a good football team, but they are nowhere near as good as their record. And I'll give a damn what Bill Parcells said. Okay, they're not as good as their record, and I think the Giants can certainly go in there and win. And I'm calling them to do it right now by 5 points. So there it is.
All right, cool. So you got your predictions. Tomorrow's going to be, come on, we have to admit as sports fans, we're pretty spoiled. Tomorrow we got a full day of football, man. Come on.
And next week.
Playoff football at that.
Next week, dude, that is the best week of playoff football.
It is, but dude, wild card weekend's pretty cool.
Wild's cool, but that divisional round and the championship Sunday's great too. But that divisional round is just one game after the other.
Yeah. And I don't think Lamar Jackson's playing versus the Bengals. I'm kind of surprised at that. I think he would be. I don't know what his injury is, but to not play versus the Bengals in prime time or the playoffs, he hasn't gotten the contract yet. But I can't help but think that he's looking out for himself because he wants to get that contract. He's not helping the team out.
Well, to me, I just that kind of quarterback just doesn't win Super Bowls, man. And I could say, well, you got one there, Philadelphia. Jalen has really turned himself into a pocket passer. He really has. He'll do some scheduled runs and this and that. But when it comes time to say, okay, Hurts, we're going to leave you in the pocket and you're going to have to beat us from the pocket. So far this year, he's gone, okay, I will. And he's done it. So, Yes, he's athletic, but this other guy, this Joker from the Ravens, I think he just falls into that the scrap heap
Yeah, but
of all your
the point
other,
I'm trying to make is like it's a
you know.
big game. It's a playoff game. He has a PCL injury. He's got a grade 2 sprain that he did week 13 versus the Broncos.
Yeah,
But
he's selfish, is what you're saying. I know.
I'm not trying to say Lamar's selfish, and I understand the financial implications, right? If he gets hurt in this big game, he might not be, because he's up for probably a $200 million contract, right? So obviously there's a lot of money in the line, and he is kind of a running quarterback, so he's kind of he's more susceptible to injury. But to not play in primetime versus the Bengals are one of their rivals.
Dude, you know what makes me sick? Do you know what makes me sick, Sean? These men, they are the best in the world at what they do, and they should certainly be paid accordingly. But when you start talking about millions and millions and then hundreds, tens of millions is one thing, but hundreds of millions of dollars, and they still want to bicker, you jerk-offs make me sick. You really, really do. And they'll come out with this stuff, I have to feed my family. What the hell are you feeding them? I mean, come on now. You got to feed your family. Your family's not going to starve. If you make $40 million instead of 90, your poor family, they have to get by on $40 million. Kiss my ass. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
What if they're feeding their families tigers? There's obviously a lot of tigers in America.
But you know what I mean, Sean? I mean, when you get into these life-changing money that these guys make, and they're pissed off because, no, man, they want to give me 90 million and I'm worth 140 million. What the hell are you talking about?
We're talking earlier about perspective and how these clams and cockles and clams and stuff, and the song Molly Malone, and like people used to get up early in the morning and get their food and then go to work all day and break their backs.
Yes.
And these guys they put it in the perspective. I love sports. Sports is like a huge part of my life. And I have so much respect for these athletes. A lot of them can put it in perspective, but they're making millions of dollars to play a game they love. And the ancestors and people before them were breaking their backs, and we made it all possible to have professional sports in this country. They're rich. Just realize you're rich, and just, invest wisely and save their money the rest of your life. You never have to work a day in your life after you retire, really.
Thank you. And you can live, you're going to live like a king. You're going to be rich for the rest of your life, and your offspring are going to be rich for the rest of their lives. This is generational, life-changing money that you have. Once you get over the $10-15 million, 10 or 15 million. Now, to these guys, they may bicker that over that 10 or 15 million that we think is life-changing, 10 or 15 million. They may make 100 million, and they're pissed off that they're not making 180 million. I mean, and then they'll always run it by and try to do the thing where, how can I criticize a guy that just wants to feed his family, and they hide behind it. I got to feed my family. Hey, listen, jerk off. Okay. You're the best at what you do. You should be making a lot of money. You've already make life-changing money as it is. Don't sell me this horse shit about your kid's not going to be able to eat.
You notice another thing that, not to interrupt you, because you got yourself going down a hill there.
For using your name in vain, but that irritates me no end. I'm sorry, Sean, go ahead.
When they get contracts, a lot of these guys get huge contracts and they're never the same player. What do you think about that? That's an important thing too. You need the carrot and the stick. You need some motivation. They got their financial motivations kind of gone, and they kind of lose their fire within the fire that's within them. They kept them going in the first place.
It's just the whole notion. And yeah, like Russell Wilson, but it's just the whole notion of, guys, don't you realize? And I think at some point, it's not even about the money. It's just an ego thing. I think it's just an ego thing that, oh yeah, I caught this many passes last year and this many yards, and this joker on the other team, he hasn't had my stats, and he's making, $60 more million than I am, because I'm, I'm only making 190 and he's making 250. But it's an ego thing. It's like my number should be higher than his number. Listen, you're done. You don't have to worry about anything. You're going to be rich for the rest of your days, and your offspring and their offspring are going to be rich. Shut the hell up and go play.
I think we should shut the hell up pretty soon, because this has gone on long enough.
You know why? But it's been enjoyable.
I think this show has been this episode particularly has been.
I almost don't want to close it because we're.
I know because obviously
my throat is killing me.
It would be tempting to rush it, because the Chargers and Jags are playing. It looks like the Jags just scored a 27-7 Jaguar. So maybe there's some second half magic for the Jags. I'm going to give the game a chance. I'm going to watch the game after I upload the show and everything.
Never count Dougie out. Never count Dougie out, because it's 20
Peterson,
points.
Yep.
There's a lot of football to be
really
played.
Special.
And one day you and I are going to mess around and do a 2-hour show.
Yeah, well, no, we will.
We can do it.
Because a lot of these big time shows and radio shows, they're on for 5 days. Because Howard Stern did 5 days a week for over 30 years, like 4-hour shows. The man was doing like 20-hour shows and had to be all original. And,
if that's all you do, we can,
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that we have to put it in perspective. Like the guys who make a lot of money, put it in perspective. All we're doing, we're doing about 2 hours of recording a week. Obviously, there's a lot of preparation. There's a lot of goes into it and uploading it and getting it out on social media and promoting it. But 2 hours a week is not a lot from us, and we can definitely do more. So yeah, man, we got more in us for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been a great show. All the social media links are going to be in the description. I'm going to try to see if I can put the YouTube link. I can't promise it's going to be in there this time. I got to find out because I don't want the episode to be released and then we have to re-upload it again and change the description because that's a whole process.
Just in case you don't, I'm going to spit it one more time.
Molly Malone.
Okay. Molly Malone or Cockles and Muscles, same song, two different titles for the same song. The group is the Dubliners. But it's been done by everybody at one time or another. Okay, check it out on YouTube. So YouTube, Molly Malone, the Dubliners. It's a great song, and it's historic, and you're getting some culture there too, folks. So check it out.
I want to quickly talk about Villanova basketball really briefly. We're having a horrible season. I apologize to all Villanova basketball fans and people who thought Villanova was this big-time program because we still are. The other night, the Full 40 podcast, it's a good Villanova basketball podcast, they had a Twitter Spaces on Twitter. You don't see a lot of big-time programs do this. It was a therapy session for the program because we're not doing good this year. And they had former players on like Alan Ray, Colin Gillespie. A lot of people tuned in. I think over like 1,000 people tuned in. And we kind of vented our frustrations with Villanova basketball. And you don't see that a lot. You don't see that with a lot of these big-time programs. A lot of people they have a bad year. They turn on their teams. They stop watching the games. We're keeping things in perspective. We've been very spoiled these past couple of years, as Colin Gillespie said on the Twitter Spaces. We're having a great year, but you never know. If Justin Moore comes back, we can win that Big East tournament. We can gain some momentum. We can really possibly. That's the only way we're going to make the tournament is if we win the Big East tournament to get into the actual March Madness NCAA tournament. But anyway, I digress. Villanova basketball, not having a great year. But thanks everyone for listening. And Joe, the floor is yours.
If you want to dance all night, you got to pay the fiddler. Good night.
Take care.